Hello, welcome to my student support system. In today's class, we are going to discuss digestive system part 3. In this lecture, we will discuss about anatomy and physiology of intestine. This lecture is in English, and if you want to study in Hindi, just click on I button and you will get link of Hindi lecture, or even you can directly visit the channel my student support system. So what is digestive system? Digestive system is also known as gastrointestinal system or alimentary canal or GIT. This is a vast system approximately 10 meters long. It travels the length of body from mouth through the thoracic cavity, abdominal cavity and then in um, pelvic cavity where it ends in anus. We will cover this chapter in multiple classes. In today's class, we are going to discuss about anatomy and physiology of small intestine and large intestine. The small intestine is continuous with the stomach at pyloric sphincter. The small intestine is approximately 5 meters long and leads to large intestine at ileocecal valve. It lies in the abdominal cavity and surrounded by large intestine. Here you can see this is the small intestine and this is large intestine which surrounds the small intestine. Small intestine is composed of three different parts: duodenum, jejunum and ileum. The duodenum is about 25 centimeter long and it curves around the head of pancreas. Secretions from gallbladder and pancreas merge in a common structure, that is hepatopancreatic ampulla, and enter into the duodenum at duodenal papilla. The duodenal papilla is guarded by a ring of smooth muscles known as hepatopancreatic sphincter or sphincter of Oddi. Here you can understand that this is the pyloric sphincter. This is part of stomach, and here duodenum starts. It is curved, okay, only 25 centimeter up to here, and it curves the around the head of pancreas. This is pancreas gland, and this is the duct of coming from gallbladder, and this is coming from pancreas, and commonly they enter into the duodenum, and this is guarded by sphincter of Oddi. The jejunum is the middle part or middle section of small intestine and is about 2 meters long. And the ileum is the terminal section which is about 3 meters long and ends at the ileocecal valve which controls the flow of material from the ileum to cecum. Cecum is the first part of large intestine, and this ileocecal valve prevents backflow or regurgitation of the contents which have reached to the large intestine. Here you can understand this. This is duodenum, this is jejunum, and this is ileum. It ends at the starting point of large intestine. Structure of small intestine. The wall of small intestine is composed of the same four layers that make up most of GI tract: the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, and serosa, with some modifications in outermost layer and the innermost layer. The outermost layer is double layered peritoneum, also called as mesentery, attaches the jejunum and ileum to the posterior abdominal wall. The large blood vessels and nerves lies on the posterior abdominal wall, while the branches of blood vessels to the small intestine lies between the two layers of this mesentery or peritoneum. The surface area of small intestine means the mucosa is greatly increased by permanent circular folds, villi and microvilli. Okay, so these three structures are there which increase the surface area of small intestine. So here you can see these are the circular folds and these are permanent. Unlike the stomach which are smoothed out when the stomach is full, they are not smoothed out, they remains as such. They promote mixing of chyme with the enteric juices as it passes along. When the chyme moves from in the small intestine, these folds allow mixing of the chyme with intestinal juices. Structure of small intestine is continued. The villi, which are finger-like projections in the mucosal layer into the intestinal lumen and is about 0.5 to 1 millimeter long. Their wall consists of columnar epithelium known as enterocytes, and these enterocytes have microvilli on their upper end which are 1 micrometer long. The goblet cells that secrete mucus are intercepted between enterocytes. These epithelial cell encloses a network of blood and lymph capillaries. The lymph capillaries are called lacteals because the absorbed fat gives the lymph a milky appearance. The absorption of some final stage digestion of nutrients take place in the enterocytes before entering to the blood and lymph vessels. Here you can see these are the villi and on this free border of this enterocyte there are microvilli. Okay, these are the lacteals or lymph vessel and this is blood capillary network. The intestinal glands are simply tubular glands situated below the surface between villi. Okay, so here in between there are some tubular glands and they pass upwards. Okay, so they start from here, secrete juices, and then they move upwards, and finally when they reach at the tip they are shed off. Okay, because of wear and tear, and another new cells they come from below. The wall of villi is replaced, the entire epithelium is replaced in small intestine every 3 to 5 days. There are 4 types of cells present in mucosa of small intestine. The absorptive cells produce digestive enzymes and absorb digested foods. These are also known as enterocytes and they are abundant. A lot of enterocytes are there. Then goblet cells, they are present in between which secrete mucus. Enteroendocrine, these cells produce regulatory hormones such as secretin and cholecystokinin. These hormones are secreted to initiate release of pancreatic juices and bile. Pen cell produce lysozyme which protect the small intestine from pathogens that have survived the acid condition of the stomach, and there are Peyer's patches or lymphatic tissue in the small intestine. They also protect the small intestine from bacterial attack. Functions of small intestine. First function is onward movement of contents by peristalsis movement. In small intestine, continuous peristalsis movements are seen, which is increased by parasympathetic nervous system stimulation. Secretion of intestinal juices, also increased by parasympathetic stimulation. Completion of chemical digestion of carbohydrates, protein, fat in the enterocytes of the villi. Protection against infection by microbes that have survived an antimicrobial action of hydrochloric acid in the stomach by solitary lymph follicles and aggregated lymph follicles in the small intestine. Secretions of hormones, cholecystokinin and secretin, and absorption of nutrients. These are the functions of small intestine. Now we will see the process of digestion in small intestine. This is very important. In examination, this separate question is asked that explain the digestion in small intestine. So when the chyme passes into the small intestine, it is mixed with pancreatic juice and bile and intestinal juice. So three types of juices are there in the intestine: intestinal juice, pancreatic juice and bile. And they all act on this food, this chyme, to digest it. In the small intestine, all nutrients are digested and converted into simpler forms. Carbohydrates are broken to monosaccharides, proteins are broken to amino acids, and fats are broken to fatty acid and glycerol, which can be absorbed easily. First of all, we will discuss what pancreatic juice do. The pancreatic juice is secreted by exocrine pancreas and enters the duodenum at duodenal papilla. It consists of water, mineral salts, enzyme, amylase, lipase, and nuclease, inactive enzyme precursors that are trypsinogen and chymotrypsinogen. Now, digestion of protein in the intestine. The trypsinogen and chymotrypsin, which are inactive enzyme, they are activated by enterokinase enzyme, an enzyme in the microvilli, which convert them into active proteolytic enzyme which can digest protein that are trypsin and chymotrypsin. This enzyme converts polypeptide to tripeptide, then to dipeptide, then to amino acids. It is important that they are produced in inactive form in the pancreas and they are activated only after coming into the intestine. Otherwise, they would digest the pancreas itself. Digestion of carbohydrate by this pancreatic juice. Pancreatic amylase convert all digestible polysaccharides that are not acted upon by salivary amylase or they are spared during that process to disaccharides. Digestion of fat. Lipase enzyme of pancreatic juice convert fat to fatty acids and glycerol to aid this action or to help in uh, action or digestion by lipase bile salt coming from gallbladder. They also help. They emulsify the fat and reduce the size of globules, increasing their surface area, and lipase act on this fat. Now, the principal constituent of intestinal secretion or known as intestinal juice is water, mineral salts, and mucus. And most of the digestive enzyme in the small intestine are contained in the enterocytes. They are not freely moving in the small intestine as pancreatic and bile juice do. They remain in the enterocytes in the wall of villi. The digestion of carbohydrate, protein and fat is completed by direct contact between these nutrients and microvilli and within the enterocytes. The enzyme that complete the chemical digestion of food at surface of enterocytes are peptidase, lipase, sucrase, maltase, and lactase. The final stage of breakdown of all peptides to amino acid take place at the surface of enterocytes. Lipase completes the digestion of emulsified fats to fatty acid and glycerols in the intestine. Sucrase, maltase and lactase complete the digestion of carbohydrate by converting disaccharides such as sucrose, maltose and lactose to the monosaccharides at the surface of enterocytes. Now absorption of all nutrients in small intestine. All the chemical and mechanical phases of digestion from mouth to the small intestine are directed towards changing the food form from complex to simpler as they pass, and then only they are absorbed in the epithelial lining of the mucosa and that underlying blood vessels. Then these nutrients enter into the blood vessels. These forms are monosaccharides like glucose, fructose and galactose from the carbohydrates, single amino acids or dipeptide and tripeptide from the proteins, and fatty acid and glycerol and monoglycerides from fats. Passage of these digested nutrients from gastrointestinal tract to the blood and lymph vessel is called absorption. Absorption of material occur via diffusion, facilitated diffusion, osmosis and active transport. About 90% of all absorption of nutrients occur in small intestine. The other 10% is in the stomach and in large intestine. Any undigested or unabsorbed material left in the small intestine pass into large intestine. Monosaccharides, amino acids pass into the capillaries in the villi. Fatty acid and glycerol enter into the lacteals where they are transported along the lymphatic vessels and then enter the circulation at thoracic duct. The surface area through which absorption takes place in small intestine is greatly increased by the circular folds, villi and microvilli. It has been calculated that the surface area of small intestine is about 5 times of the whole body. Large amount of fluid which enter in the alimentary tract each day is absorbed in the small intestine. Only 1500 ml approximately is not absorbed, which enters into the large intestine. The large intestine. Large intestine is about 1.5 meter long, beginning at the cecum at right iliac fossa here and terminating at the rectum and anal canal at this level deep in the pelvis. The lumen of this large intestine is 6.5 centimeter in diameter. The layers that of the small intestine is same 4 layers. For descriptive purpose, the large intestine is divided into cecum, colon, rectum and anal canal. First part is cecum. This is the first part of large intestine. It is dilated region which has a blind end inferiorly and is continuous with ascending colon superiorly. Just below the junction of these two, cecum and ascending colon, there is a ileocecal valve open from the ileum, and there is ramiform appendix or a fine tube which has closed one end which lead from the cecum. It is usually about 8.9 centimeter long and has the same structures as the wall of large intestine have, but it contains more lymphoid tissue. Now colon. The colon has again 4 parts which have same structure and functions. Ascending colon. This pass upwards from cecum to the level of liver where it curve to the left at the hepatic flexure to become transverse colon. Then there is transverse colon. This is a loop of colon that extend across the abdominal cavity in front of duodenum and the stomach to the area of spleen where it forms splenic flexure and curve acutely downwards and become descending colon. Here you can Watch it. Cecum, ascending colon, hepatic flexure, transverse colon, splenic flexure, descending colon. Descending colon pass down left side of the abdominal cavity that curve towards the midline after it enters the true pelvis, and it is known as sigmoid colon. Here at the last end it becomes as sigmoid colon. Sigmoid colon is the part which is approximately S-shaped and curve in the pelvis to continue downwards and become rectum. Now the rectum. This is slightly dilated section of the large intestine. Here this is rectum. It is about 13 centimeter long. It leads from the sigmoid colon and terminates in the anal canal. This is anal canal. Anal canal is a short passage of about 3.8 to 4 centimeter long in adult and leads from rectum to the exterior environment. Two sphincter muscles control the anus, internal sphincter and external sphincter. The internal sphincter consists of smooth muscles and is under autonomic nervous system control, while the external sphincter formed by skeletal muscle and is under voluntary control. Structure of large intestine. The four layers of tissue described in the basic structure of gastrointestinal tract are present in the cecum, colon, rectum and anal canal. The arrangement of longitudinal muscle fibers is modified in the cecum and colon. They do not form the smooth continuous layer, but they form three bands, and these bands are known as tinea coli. Sac-like structures are formed in the large intestine, which are known as ostra. In the mucosal lining of colon and the upper region of rectum are large number of mucus secreting goblet cells within which have simple tubular glands. They are not present beyond the junction between rectum and anal canal. The lining membrane of anal canal consists of stratified squamous epithelium and is continuous with the mucous membrane lining of the rectum above and merge with the skin beyond the external anal sphincter. In the upper section of anal canal, the mucous membrane is arranged in 6 to 10 vertical folds known as anal columns. Each column contains a terminal branch of superior rectal artery and vein. Functions of large intestine. First function is absorption. Though a large amount of water has been absorbed in the small intestine, in large intestine absorption of water by osmosis continue until the familiar semi-solid consistency of feces is achieved. Mineral salts, vitamins and some drugs are also absorbed into the blood capillaries and in the large intestine. Second is microbial activity. A large intestine is heavily colonized by certain types of bacteria which synthesize vitamin K and folic acid. They include E. coli, Enterobacter aerogens, Streptococcus faecalis, and Clostridium perfringens. These microbes are commensals, means they are normally present and harmless in the human. However, they may become pathogenic if it transferred to the another part of body. For example, E. coli causes cystitis or urinary tract infection if it gain access to the urinary bladder. Next function is mass movement. The large intestine does not exhibit a peristaltic movement as it is seen in the other part of digestive tract. Only at fairly long intervals like twice in an hour does a wave of strong peristalsis sweep along the transverse colon, forcing the contents into the descending and sigmoid colon. This is known as mass movement, and or we can say mass peristalsis, and often precipitated by entry of food into the stomach. And this combination of stimulus and response is called gastrocolic reflex. Next function is defecation. Usually the rectum is empty, but when mass movement forces the contents of sigmoid colon into the rectum, the nerve endings in the walls are stimulated by this stretch. In infant, the defecation occurs by reflex or involuntary. However, during the second or third year of life, ability to override the defecation reflex is learned. In practical terms, this is acquired voluntarily, means that the brain can inhibit the reflex until such time that is convenient to defecate. So it is all about intestine, small, large, and the remaining part of the large intestine. So watching this type of videos, you can subscribe the channel, you can like Facebook page for getting latest updates, and for making your notes, you can visit my blogger mynursingstudents.blogspot.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and join Facebook group Nursing Notes. Thank you. Have a nice day.